is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
It is a beautiful weather night in downtown Chicago and just up Lakeshore Drive along the North Shore. We'll roll right into Wrigleyville and we welcome you to Wrigley Field. Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Reds and the Cubs. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. And, you know, it just seems like a broken record, Chris, and there used to be a thing called a record. Joey Votto, what this guy continues to do is mind-boggling.
It really is. I mean, every time you look up, he's going for some kind of new triumph. And what we're going to talk about tonight is how he has done in July, August, and September, trying to become the first player in Major League history to hit 390 3 consecutive months. I mean, it really is unbelievable. He hits it hard, he gets base hits. He hits it soft, he gets base hits. He hits left-handers. I mean, he's hitting .450 over the last 3 months against left-handers. So there's really no cure if you're the opposing manager and figuring out a way to get Joey Votto out. Maybe walking him, but I mean, he's safe about half the time anyway. So it's an amazing thing that you're watching here, the kind of streak that Joey Votto is on right now.
Now, getting on base tonight's a tall order because right now the hottest pitcher in all of Major League Baseball is a longtime veteran, one of the very, very best over the last decade, and that's Jon Lester.
Well, for the second year in a row with the Cubs, and for 9 straight seasons now, Jon Lester will start 30 games. And boy, his last 12 starts, he has been terrific. Remember last year when Jake Arrieta finished the season really hot and everybody made a big thing out of that? Lester's not getting the kind of pub that Arrieta did, but for a guy that has never finished any higher than 4th in the Cy Young Award voting, he may just be on all the way to the top this year.
And starting it for the Reds, I mean, they're in dire straits right now. They're calling on Josh Smith to start this one.
Well, he had 7 starts last year, Smith did, and he's a reliever. He's been around for most of the season. He's had a pretty good year, considering the fact that when you're the long man down there, you're not sure when you're going to pitch or how many innings. He volunteered to pitch this ball game. Fortunately, his arm feels good. They wanted Kiva Sampson to pitch. Unfortunately, his arm would not permit that. So Smith gets the start tonight. We don't know how long he's going to go. Look for Wandy Peralta, however, to be the next guy up after Smith wears out.
All right, when we come back, we're going to check in with Jim Day. And he'll have a few more nuggets for you on Jon Lester and how good he's been. Lineups, first pitch coming up. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
Reds here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. I'm Jim Day. Tough task tonight, as Tom and Chris talked about. John Lester putting together a career year. You check out the numbers. It's our IGS bringing the energy of 17 wins, best of his career, winning percentage, ERA, opponent average, all tops in his career. Cubs been the most dominant team in the National League, and they'll be your favorites going into the playoffs. He's picked a pretty good year to be so dominant. As we go upstairs to the guys that will call it, Tom Brenneman and Chris Welsh.
All righty, Jimbo, thank you very, very much. And, you mentioned the fact that the Reds are playing 3 straight night games. They have really become the primary opponent in night games here at Wrigley Field. As you look at the numbers on Lester, 30th start of the year yet again, 9 seasons in a row he's done that. First pitch is in there, strike one to Jose Peraza, and we are underway. But to finish that thought, the Reds over the last 3 years have played 18 night games here at Wrigley Field. 18 in 3 years. That's by far more than any other team in baseball. And they've not fared well.
Well, if every night is as nice as it is tonight here in Chicago, bring it on.
To Hopper at Addison Russell, and Peraza retired to begin the game. We look at the Reds lineup tonight. Under manager Brian Price. Tony Renda coming up, gets a nod at third base tonight. Joey Votto at first base. Duvall in the cleanup spot. Brandon homered here last night. Schebler in right. And a ladder third of Holt, the center fielder. Cabrera catching. Right-hander Josh Smith. It is significantly cooler and a lot less, if any, humidity than we had from last night's game, where it was quite warm. And with it, the winds have shifted. They were blowing out, you may remember, last night. Tonight they're coming in off the northeast at around 5 to 7 miles per hour off Lake Michigan. End of the day, though, that's really not a factor one way or the other. Not strong enough to knock balls down. Tony Renda with a count of 2 balls and no strikes. And it's on the ground right at the third baseman. 2 away. Javier Baez getting the nod down there tonight at third. And now Joey Votto. 2 more hits last night. Season high .321 batting average.
You know what, I found out that we were going to talk about Joey Votto trying to hit .390 3 consecutive months at our open. I did a little research what he has done against left-handers, and it's absolutely remarkable. Votto actually over the last 3 months has been a better hitter against left-handers than he has been against right-handers. And many of those left-handers are those lefty specialists that managers bring in at the end of the game just to get him out.
A little excuse me swing there, and the tapper down to Baez, and Lester a 1-2-3 opening inning. Josh Smith tries to answer when the Cubs bat in the moment. Hold on, Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Skyline Chili. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. Unfortunately, no Skyline Chili right here in the Windy City. Take a look at Chicago's batting order under manager Joe Madden, Dexter Fowler, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo. Ben Zobrist in the cleanup spot. Addison Russell at short. Jason Hayward homered here last night. He's in right. Baez, a third baseman, and the personal catcher for John Lester with Boston and with Chicago, David Ross. One-time Red. Josh Smith gets a swing and a miss on the first pitch of the inning to Dexter Fowler. 30th appearance, first start for Josh Smith. As Chris mentioned, his previous 7 career major league starts came all last year. He didn't win any of them. Had a hard time throwing strikes last year, which was sort of unusual when they gave him a chance to start, because in the minor leagues, he threw a lot of strikes.
Yeah, I think for Josh, it happened to what happens to a lot of young pitchers. He got a little nervous up here and felt that he had to make perfect pitches. And he found himself behind in the count, ended up walking batters, getting hit around pretty hard. And I actually heard him talk about that experience with a couple of the younger pitchers the Reds brought up earlier this year, about how it's not as hard as you make it out to be. You've got to get out there and go right after it. And really that's what Tim Adelman did last night, which really helped him through the first 6 innings before he made a couple of mistake pitches, and the Cubs tied the ball game up on long balls.
Still 2-2 on Dexter Fowler. Fowler at .269 has 12 home runs, 7 of those leading off a game. That's the second most in franchise history to Alfonso Soriano.
Well, the one thing that he varies from Soriano in is the amount of patience he has at the plate. He'll really make a pitcher work. A lot of foul balls, takes a lot of pitches, averages almost 4.5 pitches per plate appearance. That's about the tops in the league.
Cub batters this year have hit 35 home runs against Reds pitching. Of course, the Reds set an all-time major league record for most home runs in a single season last night. Right away center. This will be easy for Holt. 1 out. So an 8th pitch at bat, but an out for Smith. We look at the Reds on defense. Told you Holt getting the nod in center field. Flanked by Duvall and Shevlin. Brenda, rare start down to third. And Cabrera hanging the signs for Josh Smith. But 35 home runs this year for Chicago against the Reds. And what is incredible is if you include tonight, these teams have 5 games left in their season series. The all-time record by an opponent in a single year is held by the 1957 Milwaukee Braves. That's against the Reds. They hit 38 home runs. Cubs need 3 to tie that in 5 games. And here's a man who leads his team in home runs. That's Chris Bryant, 37 of them. That is a fair ball into the left field corner. And Bryant stands up with a 1-out double.
Well, the Reds really handled Chris Bryant last night. Tim Adelman kept throwing that fastball right under his hands. And he got him on a couple of strikeouts and a fly ball. Here's a cut fastball that starts inside and then hangs right there on the inner third. And Bryant clears his hips, gets a good swing on it, and right inside the line.
You know, there's some guys they talk about ball jumping off their bat. I don't know if anybody in the league, the ball jumps off their bat better than it does Bryant. It's a powerful young man. Or some might say Rizzo belongs in that company. Well out of play. You know, we were talking about that Milwaukee Braves team in 1957 that hit 38 home runs off Reds pitching. They had a guy named Hank Aaron on that team. Another fellow named Eddie Matthews. A couple of the Hall of Famers. I believe Joe Adcock was on that team too.
And you wonder maybe, 20 years down the road whether, Bryant and Rizzo may be in that category. They're certainly on a path to having both tremendous careers. They're both still very young. Bryant 24 years old. Rizzo's a couple of years older. But again, I said it last night, it's worth repeating about an unusual lineup, at least traditionally speaking. When your number 2 hitter has 37 home runs, your number 3 hitter has 31 home runs, and your cleanup hitter is more of a spray the ball all over the ballpark kind of guy.
Yep.
And we're talking about Ben Zobrist. Zobrist has, 15 bombs. I mean, nothing to sneeze at, but still, he's not the typical slugger that you'd expect to see in that number 4.
Sure.
And Joe Madden is not afraid to experiment. And if he gets a win, he'll follow it out, make reality out of it.
Be caught by the shortstop Peraza. It's a good pitch right there. Got in on Rizzo for the second out of the inning.
That's where you have to pitch a big slugger is inside. So you can't pitch scared when you're pitching against guys that hit home runs. When you start nibbling away on the outer part of the plate and they take pitches that are just off the plate and then you come in a little bit, that's where they get their home runs. But if you have a lot of intestinal fortitude and you go right after them in under the hands, that's when you can take their power away.
Here's Zobrist, runner at second, 2 out, strike 1. And now Smith ahead at 0-2. Ed Hickox, our home plate umpire tonight. John Tumpane at first, Tom Woodring at second base, and Mike Estabrook is the umpire at third. Ryan, a 1-out double, now leads at second with 2 away in the 0-2. Just off the inside corner. Ben Zobrist won a World Series ring with Kansas City a season ago. Lester had an 8-pitch perfect first inning. This will be the 20th pitch in this inning thrown by Smith.
Yeah, Smith threw 8 pitches to the leadoff hitter.
Off to the third base side and again out of fourth.
And really that factors into this ball game maybe more tonight because Josh Smith, he pitched 3 innings or so just a couple of days ago, 3 days ago actually. He's had 2 full days of rest. And, the Reds are thinking, well, we certainly didn't think that we would find ourselves short of arms in September after, you have expanded rosters and call-ups. But, with some injuries and some doubleheader and all of a sudden guys that don't respond the way they thought they would respond, it's been too far between the time the minor league season has ended and now for them to call up somebody who may have been down in AAA on the 40-man roster and bring him up. You can still call him up, but they haven't thrown in a couple of weeks. So they didn't think that was the right thing to do. Although, if I was a guy, a AAA player, sitting around, I'd pick that phone up before it goes on the second ring.
I'm with you.
And I say, I'm in my car or on a plane right now.
You know what, though? I wouldn't even wait for the phone to ring. I would pick up the phone and call the manager or the general manager. Say, hey, look, I've been throwing, and if you need somebody, I'm ready to go. That's how you get places in this world. Sit around and laid back. You're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anywhere. Just go look at all the go-getters in the world. They're the ones that are getting it done. Not the guys sitting around waiting for the call, and, it doesn't work that way.
Well, the guys that throw first pitch strikes and keep the ball down have a way of getting up there in the world, too.
That's true. There's ball 4. That's quite an at-bat by Zobrist. You mentioned it. Smith threw as many pitches to the first batter as Lester threw the entire 1, 2, 3 top of the inning. The Cubs have fouled off as many pitches in this inning as Lester threw in the first. Right now, Addison Russell, 247 batter, clubbed his 21st home run of the year, driving in his 93rd last night. He hit the home run to make it a 2-1 game.
Early in the count, anyway, Russell is up there to jump one out of here. You watch his front foot. He steps a little bit towards third. I mean, he is waiting for an inside fastball just to drop that bat in. That time he closed his stance up a little bit. You can really tell a hitter's intention just by watching where his front foot goes. If he's looking in, he'll step open. If he's looking away, he'll step towards the first base batter.
Well, one thing is for sure as well, and that is Russell is right on top of that play. I mean, there can't be more than, what, 1.5 inches, 2 inches between the tip of his toes and the white line on the batter's box. A little further back on this pitch. He's backed up maybe 1/4 of a step. You don't see that done much anymore.
No, you used to see batters all over the batter's box. If they're 0 for 2, they're moving to a different spot. Nowadays, the guys kind of find their comfort spot and they stay there.
1-2 on Russell.
Yeah, that's the pitch right there. That was an excellent breaking ball by Josh Smith, but that's one that he really wanted Russell to put that one into play because you're going to get a really bad swing. So even if he hits it, he's not going to hit it very hard. But when you foul it off, it's like, oh, now I got to even make a better pitch.
It's a 10th foul ball alone in this bottom of the first inning. And there's the 11th. th pitch in this first inning for Josh Smith. 2 on, 2 out.
Boy, he has made some good pitches too.
Tim Adelman was making his debut against the Cubs. Obviously his Wrigley Field debut. That is not the story tonight for Smith. He's pitched in 1 game here. Tonight's his 4th against Chicago, and he puts away Russell to end the inning. A hit, 2 left, no score at the end of 1. Take a look at Chicago defensively. Bryant started at third last night, out in left field tonight. Boy, what a luxury Joe Madden has in a number of these players on his team. When you look around at the rest of that defense, Bryant, we're talking about a budding superstar in this game. But not a guy who says, oh, I got to, make sure I hit in the same place in the batting order, and you got to play the same position. We have heard that from so many players in the past. Bryant just wants to be in a lineup. Baez, same thing.
Well, you don't hear it from too many young players, and that's where Joe Madden comes in, where, he's got the young players on his ball club. He breaks them in with that attitude that, hey, we're a ball team here. And you're a ball player. You're not only a third baseman or only a shortstop. You're a guy that's part of a winning ball club. And if you can get them to buy into it when they're a young player, you have no problem going down the road, especially when you're part of a winning team. Now, if you're on a losing team, it's a different story because players start playing for their own statistics and for themselves. It becomes more of a selfish season. Very difficult to overcome when you're a manager to keep guys from doing that, when you're on the road to losing 90 or 100 games. But Madden has had the tools, there's no doubt about it, including a very fine starting rotation that for the most part has stayed healthy this year.
I remember the years I was working here and was so incredibly fortunate to do so, but Ryne Sandberg's a Hall of Fame player, great player. Had an incredible career, one of the great second basemen of all time. But during his career, he never liked batting anywhere else in the order except for second in the lineup. And when you look who hit second on those teams and you look who hit third, you say to yourself, what's wrong with this picture? Sandberg batting second, Mark Grace, contact hitter, great hitter, put the ball in play, could have done a lot of things, moving runners, that kind of thing. But Sandberg didn't want to bat anywhere else but second, and he didn't. Phillips almost fell over, he swung so hard.
A little hard slider down and in.
Brandon Holmberg leading off the second inning. You may remember last night. And this one is into left center field. Chris Bryant going to get it. It's a nice play.
For a big guy, Chris Bryant moves very well. There was some concern early on, and maybe it was just political talk on the part of the Cubs that they didn't want to bring him up too early, that he couldn't play good enough defense. But he's been way more than adequate or average at third base, and that's a dandy diving play in left field there. Nice soft grass out there to dive on. Kind of makes you want to get out there and get your suit dirty, doesn't it, Tom?
It does. It does.
It's already a little dirty, actually. See that coffee stain over there? Unless you were
that was dinner earlier
that
tonight.
Was it? I thought it was maybe on the infield earlier.
No. Well, I mean, when you wear it 3 days in a row, that's what happens. One ball and one strike on Schebler.
The one thing you notice about Lester, I mean, it really jumps at us. If you like to watch where pitchers throw their baseball, he's not a guy that moves it all around the zone. I mean, he throws it at the kneecaps and below, and pretty much that's about it. I mean, he never is a guy that tries to go upstairs and change the eye level of the hitter, or he knows what is his bread and butter, and it is down. Look at the grouping down here of where all these pitches are. I mean, right down there at that line and below.
Back-to-back 1-2-3 innings for Lester. No score as the Cubs bat in the bottom of the second.
Is happening for Chicago. David Ross will also hit here in the second. And David Ross, on the swan song of his career, 39 years of age, has announced at the end of the season he will retire. Well, David Ross and Hayward, they have a history. Former Braves, and when Hayward was a young rookie, it was Ross that took him under his wings. The day that Hayward signed with the Cubs, Ross got a text message from the traveling secretary saying, for the full season, you are going to get a suite on the road compliments of Mr. Hayward. That's how much he thinks of David Ross. David Ross has 3 children, including a newborn, and he just figured he needed more space on the road. So Jason Hayward footing the bill. Granted, he makes a lot of money, but footing the bill for David Ross to have a suite for his family all year long.
It's a great story, Jim Day. Great story. Tell you what, Jim Day's on top of it. Doesn't matter whether he's talking about Joey Votto, Brandon Phillips, up and down the pitching staff, Homer Bailey. We're checking in with the opposition. Every day, Jim Day. Javier Baez, a breaking ball near a strike. Fewer than 400 at bats. Baez has 13 home runs, 50 runs batted in. Now his on base percentage, not much. 308. But there is some pop in that bat. Josh Smith has started each of the first 7 hitters in the Cub batting order with a first pitch strike. It's a good recipe to get ahead and put people away.
And he's throwing the ball right in there, too. I mean, meaning on the inner part of the plate. You look how big Baez swings. I mean, he nearly leaves the ground. He swings so hard. And he wants that ball middle away, you know, thigh high. And he'll chase it if you happen to put one down and away. Chase that little slider going away, and that's a pretty good at bat for Josh Smith.
2 up, 2 down. He could use a quick inning.
You know, Smith is a guy that I think after last year, and you mentioned the 7 starts that he had, and he didn't win any of them. In fact, he got beat up pretty good in a lot of them. Had a hard time throwing strikes, but he overcame, I think, the nervousness, and he realized that it's really all about throwing the baseball where you need to throw the baseball to get hitters out. And his confidence has soared this year. I mean, it's the same stuff. It's the same fastball at 90 to 92. It's the same little wrinkle of a slider. And here's the aforementioned David Ross, living large in a suite. David hit 21 home runs for the Reds back in 2006. That was the first of his 2 years with Cincinnati, actually 2.5. He had 17 the next year. By far, those were his 2 biggest power years that he's had in the major leagues in a long major league career.
And you wonder if the season goes on, you know he's going to have a lot of people leaning heavily on him, as Jim talked about a moment ago, about perhaps changing his mind. And look, it wouldn't be the first time a guy's changed his mind about not retiring. But with 3 young children at home, you know, mom's gone an awful lot by herself when dad's on the road. Baseball each and every day. And really, with all the spring training games you're playing now, you know, if your kids are old enough to be in school, and I know David Ross's children are not going to school out in Arizona. You know, dad is gone. Pitchers and catchers report now in the 2nd week of February, playing 30, 32 spring training games. It's a lot of time on the road. That's John Lester laying into one. That'll go to the ivy. Ross being waved around, and he will score. And look at David Ross. I mean, Dexter Fowler, it looked like he was going to start crying. He was laughing so hard. They might have to take him out of the game.
Well, the last thing he thought he was going to have to do when he got that 2-out base hit for right field was to, on the very next pitch, score from first base on a double in the alley. I mean, after all, you've got the pitcher coming up, right? And here he is being waved around third. And is this a slide, or has he just run out of gas?
I think he checked up when he hit the dirt. It's a 3rd career double, all of them this season for Lester. 1-0 Chicago in front. Baseball, a funny game. Josh Smith works so hard to get through the quote-unquote big 7 in this lineup. And it's a big 7 when you got Baez heading in that 7th spot. And by far the 2 lightest bats in the lineup are 8 and 9. And they get 2-out single, 2-out double to knock in a run.
You can't let your guard down now if you're Josh Smith, because right after Dexter Fowler, and he's very good at running the count up. You know, you've got Bryant and then Rizzo back to back. You don't want to let this inning get out of hand after you retired the first 2 and have the bottom of the order coming up. Come right back here and get Fowler.
Smith knocking on the door of 50 pitches now. 1 in, 2 on, 2 out. And the aforementioned Chris Bryant. Check swing, strike 1. Bryant doubled up the left field line into the corner. His first time up. Wandy Peralta already cranking it up in the bullpen. This one will stay in the yard. Short of the track for the final out. A single by Ross. He scores on a double by the pitcher. 1-0 Cubs in front. Final 3 games of the season for as low as $13. And thanks to Butterbee's American Grill on October the 1st, the first 25,000 fans receive a Team Cincinnati t-shirt, 381-REDS, or log on to Reds.com. Lester doing it on the mound. 2 perfect innings. And at the plate, a run-scoring double to knock in the game's only run. Barry Byron creating some art down there in the Reds dugout alongside a Eugenio Suarez. Now, Chris, as you've gotten older, you've become, I'm not going to say an expert in the art world, but certainly you have an incredible appreciation for art.
Well, I bought some stuff like that on eBay before. It sometimes looks better on your HD TV than it does when it gets dropped off at your front door. And your wife says, "What is that?" I'll say, "That's the Iribara."
He'd probably let you have that if you wanted it.
That'll be on Jim Day's eBay page.
Come on, add it, keyhole, baby.
Lester will do that to right-handed hitters a lot. I mean, he throws that slider that is down and in, and if you hit over the top of it, I mean, you're hitting it off your front foot about 50% of the time. And you know it's coming, and you know you shouldn't swing at it. You do anyway, and then you feel pain for the next couple of days.
Foul ball. 2-2 on Tyler Holt. Cabrera to follow, and then Josh Smith's spot due up in the order. Reds in search of their first base runner of the game against Lester, who came in 8-0 his last 12 starts with an ERA that starts with a number 1.
Well, that got him on the other foot.
Yep.
He's got 2 puppies barking at him now. The foul ball went off his left foot. This pitch goes off his back foot.
All right, so the Reds have a base runner, a painful one albeit. And now Ramon Cabrera, 257 batter, 3 home runs, 23 batted in. That's a roller foul.
You know the whole story, if you've been following John Lester at all, about how he doesn't like to throw over to first base. He's got the yips. He can't even throw over to first base without maybe throwing it wild. So you'd think the teams are running on him all day long, and they have attempted to run an awful lot. 38 attempted stolen bases against Lester this year, 25 successful, but really a surprising 13 have been thrown out. I mean, it's remarkable how well David Ross has done, helping out a pitcher that really has essentially 0 move to first.
Almost makes you wonder if it's a mental sort of thing with base runners, because Lester being a left-hander, they're so programmed to thinking, well, it's easier for them to come to first naturally than it is for a right-hander.
Oh,
I don't know what happened. That time was called.
Timeout ball called by Cabrera.
Yep, and the umpire
that's a mistake on his part. And maybe he just is not aware of what's going on with Lester as much as he should. But Tyler Holt was doing a little bit of cat and mouse out there. He was taking a little bit of lead, and then he was jumping off, and he was getting a little bit more. And just before that whole thing happened, it looked like Cabrera called the timeout, or maybe it was David Ross who called timeout. Not Cabrera. I guess it was Ross. That's a good shot there.
Short center, Zobrist waving off the 2 outfielders coming in. That'll be the second out of the inning. First out of the inning, I'm sorry. Second batter of the inning. So 1 away, and here comes the pitcher, Smith.
Now here's an interesting configuration. The second baseman is holding that's Zobrist over here holding the runner on. And Rizzo in the middle.
Well, I was just starting to say, if Holt doesn't run here, he's never going to run, because Rizzo was standing basically right in between where Lester would throw the ball to Zobrist. If he'd have thrown it, he'd have hit Rizzo right in the head.
Well, he's not going to throw the ball to first. He never does.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you still have actually Zobrist holding the runner on closer than when Rizzo did. I mean, this is an I dare you play by Joe Madden. I dare you try to steal here.
And I think Holt is he's even kind of talking to himself over there right now. And again, that's the mental part I was talking about. He started back to the first base bag, and then he just sort of slammed his fist against his leg in frustration, like, what am I thinking about? This guy's not going to throw over here.
Right. You throw a defense at him they've never seen before.
Right.
So why doesn't Josh Smith just swing away? That was a pitch out. And they were anticipating a stolen base right there.
Well, rarely will teams double up on back-to-back pitch outs. So if you're going to run, it'd be the time to do it now.
That was really one you probably call a modified pitch out. It wasn't high in a way where the catcher jumps out of the catcher's box and he catches the ball around shoulder high. He was set up right behind the plate, and as the pitch came, he just moved to off the plate, stayed down in his crouch. So, I mean, really, the best defense right here is Josh Smith choke up a little bit, give him a little Joey Votto choke up, and stay in there and put the bat on the ball here. Take a nice, even swing.
That's exactly what you just said, and that's exactly what he did. And Holt's going to go first to third. Nice call there, partner.
Nice play by Josh Smith. That was a little butcher boy. Man, when that works, it's a pretty play. You fake the bunt, you pull it back, you slash at the ball. And a little harmless ground ball that would have been a double play ball with a normal defense ends up being first and third now. Nicely done.
So a total of 3 hits by the two teams so far in this. 3 for the Cubs, 1 for the Reds. 4 hits total. Half of them have come from the starting pitchers. Lester, an RBI single in the third. The second inning, and now in the third inning, a base hit by Smith. Jammed with a pitch, pops it up to the shortstop. Well, that's a pattern he has fallen into very early in his career. When he has a runner at third with fewer than 2 men outs, he's not knocking that run in.
And the other pattern he's falling into is getting jammed a lot.
Yep.
I mean, when he gets his base hits, a lot of them on pitches on the outer part of the plate. But when you really want to get him out, what they've exposed him to now is pitches right inside. And that little long swing of his is getting jammed more than not. And that's something he'll be able to figure out and move on from.
Well, what was a threat is over. Popped up by Peraza, 1-pitch ground out by Rendon. And it's still 1-0 Chicago.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, tonight's storyline brought to you by Elk & Elk. Talk about run differential over the last 50 years. Take a look at how these Cubbies stack up. Look at number 1 on that list. Tied for number 1 anyway. We remember that 75 team, I think, right?
Oh, yeah. Some of us. The lucky ones.
It's interesting that of those top four, you know, you went 75 to 98. So we don't do math publicly, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that would be a 23-year run, right?
Close enough.
Okay, close. Thank you. But then you go 98 to 2016. I mean, you would think that, you know, maybe somewhere in there you wouldn't have these big gaps, but you had two of those teams from 98, a 75 and now a 16.
I mean, this is really the way the Cubs season has gone, where, you know, sometimes a team gets into the playoffs because they have a great year when it comes to close games. They win all the one-run games. The Cardinals have done that the last few years. Remember the last couple of years where they had runners in scoring position, batting average was just out of this world. And sometimes those are just fortunate years. But the Cubs have bludgeoned people, especially bad teams that they have good matchups against.
And unfortunately, one of those has been the Reds.
And no doubt about it. I think they're 11-3 so far this year against the Reds.
Yeah, with 35 bombs.
They've won 11 games against the Brewers. I think they've won 12 games against the Pittsburgh Pirates. 15-5 interleague. We showed you those stats last night. But this year in one-run games, I believe they're either one game above or one game below 500. They're like 22-23 or right there. So they haven't been lucky, nor have they been unlucky in one-run games.
One under, 22 up, 23 now. You have the Cubs with the best record in all of baseball. The next best record in baseball belongs to the Rangers. And what's interesting about them, Chris, breaking down what, you know, a couple of areas you were just talking about, run differential. The Rangers are 89-62, right? 27 games over. They have a +9 run differential, +9. But in one-run games, a whopping 35 wins against just 10 losses. How about that? 35-10.
Wow.
If they keep on that sort of pace, that would be the best winning percentage in the history of baseball in one-run games. Here we're in the bottom of the third inning. One out, nobody on. Cubs with a 1-0 lead. And Zobrist a cleanup hitter with a 3-2 count. Wandy Peralta is ready. He was up earlier. And he's warming up again now.
Yeah, 60 of them now for Josh.
And that's strike three, and Zobrist says it was that far outside.
And this is where Ed Hickox should drop that famous old line repeated by Doug Harvey.
Yep.
Which is, the red seam of the baseball just touched the outside of the edge of the plate. And when you have an umpire say that he saw it that clearly, what do you say? Nothing. You just drag it on back through the pine.
Nope. And in fairness, Lester has had that called a couple of times already tonight, so that's a pitch he's calling the strike. Both ways.
Too close to take. Now, this isn't an eye test up here.
Beauty right there. That locked up Russell. 1-1. That'll drift in amongst the fans. .64 pitches, 41 strikes so far for Josh Smith. Walked 2. Fanned 3. And now tries to put away the Cubs for the first time in order tonight. Well, those are the ones that scare the daylight out of you. Popped up where those in the front row of the upper deck lean out over. Scary. Scary. About 4 or 5 people right below us just did it.
I think they'll catch you.
It's a 1-2-3 third for Josh Smith. Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. Take a look at Rysel. He's been had.
Now,
and he doesn't know it down there.
Now that's not supposed to happen to Rysel Iglesias. It's supposed to happen to the guy next to him, Abel de los Santos. I mean, Iglesias, he's your opening day starter this year. They're telling him, no, we're laughing with you, Rysel. We're not laughing at you.
Of course, Iglesias and Lorenzen are very good friends. Here's Votto to begin the Reds' fourth. Chicago leading 1-0. Rysel has no idea. No. Look at De Los Santos sitting next to him. And then the fellow in the middle that worked for the Cubs. I mean, look at that. You see a little bit of a crack. He's doing everything he can to keep from laughing down there. You imagine the stories that guy here sitting down there goes home and tells his family or his wife or whatever the case may be.
Hope he's not wearing a wire.
I mean, De Los Santos just cannot stop ear to ear. Votto, an excuse me half swing. Bat met ball, and he tapped out to the third baseman. This time a ground ball down to first, and that's the way it starts for the Reds here in inning number 4. 1 out. Of course, the Cubs hope to be a part of unforgettable games, undeniable greatness, unstoppable drama. The 2000 Major League Baseball postseason begins October the 4th. For a full schedule, go to MLB.com/postseason. Giants lost a heartbreaker. Santiago Casilla gave it up in the 9th inning after Madison Bumgarner last night had outdueled Clayton Kershaw in a 1-0 game. Dodgers got 2 in the 9th to win it. They beat Lopez, but it was Santiago Casilla who, they've had some issues down there. The Giants just cannot put together any kind of consistency as far as winning games. Johnny Cueto will start for him tonight. We zero in on the Giants. Our greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. Tied for the second wild card spot. The Mets have the first spot. Giants and Cardinals tied. See the numbers since the All-Star break. It's brutal. The worst record in Major League Baseball. We talked about the bullpen. 29 blown saves. 9 losses this year. That they have let get away. You know, but you say all that, and I'm not so sure at the end of the day who wants to play him in the playoffs. The Cubs don't get an out. Zobrist cannot field the ball cleanly, and everybody saved. Duvall on the second, Brandon at first.
You know, the interesting thing about that stat surrounding the Giants, about how many games they've blown out of the bullpen, how miserable their bullpen has been here, that's a matter of trying to field the ball at the same time you're stepping on the bag. The human brain only lets you do one at a time. But the Giants have pitched, the only team that is, their bullpen has pitched fewer innings than the Giants or the Cubs. That's how good their starting rotation has been. And that's how many times their starters have put that team in a position to win a ball game. If you can just close games at an average major league rate, they wouldn't be even worried about making the playoffs. They'd already be in.
Well, yeah, that's right. They'd be a divisional champion. But because of that starting pitching with Bumgarner, Cueto, some margin, that's why I'm not sure anybody wants to play them in the playoffs. I don't think you're running, you know, to meet anybody you're going to meet. I'm not suggesting you back down. I mean, there are no gimmies once you get to the Final Four in each league, but you're talking about two of the very, very best in Bumgarner and Cueto.
It's amazing how fast those playoff games can go in terms of batters faced, because it's ace pitcher versus ace pitcher. And myself figured it out. I'm not sure he figured out who the culprit is.
They're trying to blame somebody in the stands.
It's that guy in the Cubs hat up there.
Double play ball here. Second inning in a row, the Reds have had a chance. Who done it? Who done it? Well, tomorrow on Reds Weekly, Tucker Barnhart shares his thoughts on the future of the Reds' young pitchers and how they've grown this year. Some of the favorite memories of Vin Scully as he's nearing the end of his 67 years with the Dodgers. Plus a story of Reds fan Patty Hallett, who we introduced you to during the last homestand. What a great story that was. Reds Weekly, all new tomorrow. Jeff Pecoro and Doug Flynn on Fox Sports Ohio. Josh Smith did a nice job tonight.
Yes,
he had to work hard, threw over 60 pitches in 3 innings, but he only gave up 1 run. And now it'll be Wandy Peralta making his 8th appearance as a Red.
Wandy signed and came up through the Reds organization, now 25 years old. He's from Johnny Cueto's hometown, San Pedro de Macorís.
You've been down there.
Yeah. This year, Wandy pitched in Double-A, had 13 games in Double-A. Did not start any there. He did start a couple of games in Louisville, and there was some speculation it might be Peralta that would get the start tonight instead of Josh Smith, but this is pretty much going according to plan so far.
Well, Peralta wasn't alone. And the Reds walked 19 batters in 2 games in that doubleheader on Saturday against the Pirates. Brian Price none too happy about that day. And Peralta was one of the culprits. In 1 inning he walked 2 batters, and he promptly walked his first batter here tonight. Going up there hacking is Baez. That's a nice play by Wandy.
Boy, he threw some gas down there to Joey Votto on that one. He took a look at second, and then by the time he decided to go to first base, he had to put something on it.
Votto. Whew. So now David Ross, he had the 2-out single in the 2nd inning, and then lumbered all the way home on a double by the pitcher Lester. And that so far is the only run for either team in the game. They are in the top of the 9th inning in Miami. That game is 2 hours and 5 minutes. Top of the 9th. Marlins 1, Nationals nothing. Giants and Dodgers later tonight. Mets a 1-0 lead in the 6th inning. That game started the same time the Miami game did. So did the White Sox at Philadelphia.
In case you're wondering, the pitchers in that Nationals-Miami game, Tanner Roark, 7 innings of 1-run baseball. He stands to be the loser right now. And Jose Fernandez, 8 innings, gave up 3 hits, no walks, 12 strikeouts.
That young man can stay healthy. Look out. Two and 2 on Ross. Nationals have lost 3 in a row. They have not yet clinched the National League East, but they have a hearty lead. This is on the ground to Rendon. He'll look Hayward back to third. That's a 2nd out with Lester coming up. the Reds are pitching around Lester to get to Dexter Fowler.
And why not? Guy's got the only run batted in this ball game.
I mean, Lester's just walking out of the batter's box, and Peralta can't throw the ball over the plate. 3-0. This is what we talk about every now and again. Against some pitchers, if you just stood there, and in Lester's case, he's stepping out of the box, could he throw 3 strikes before 4 balls? Lester might try and find out. 3-0's become 3-2. That's brutal. That is just brutal.
Brian Price couldn't say it better.
I mean, look, you know, you can sit there and say it's being negative and see it. It's the pitcher. He did not swing the bat one time.
He didn't want to swing the bat.
No.
The only time he was prepared to swing was the 3-2 pitch.
So now you turn Fowler around, and he will bat from the right side of the plate, where he has been a far superior hitter this season. 32 points higher, 292. So you walk the pitcher, and the next guy knocks in a run. 2-0. Each of the 2 runs by the Cubbies here tonight have come on 2 out base hits. One by Lester. That was in the second inning on Josh Smith, and now a 2-out single by Fowler. Here's Bryant. Trouble here. Cubs lead 3-0.
You knew it halfway into that play that it was going to be trouble. Votto went into no man's land. He didn't get there in time to be able to turn around and face home plate. If the right fielder can get to this ball in any manner, it is his ball all the way. And he holds up. I mean, what is... I don't know what Shepard's waiting on right there. I really don't. Can't you tell that this is an extremely difficult play for Votto?
Yeah.
And Shepard is standing in the vicinity. I don't understand that. I mean, and that you can't just say, well, they haven't played that much together out there. That is as basic as American Legion ball.
And it would be inaccurate if somebody did try to say they haven't been out there together. It's been the entire, since Jay Bruce was traded, Schebler has played virtually every day in right.
I mean, that's an out waiting to happen right there, and you give the Cubs an extra break, and you bring Anthony Rizzo to the plate with a couple of runners on.
2 balls and a strike on Rizzo. Rizzo last night clubbed his 40th double of the season. And that goes along, of course, with his 30 home runs. The first left-handed batter in Cubs history to record 40 doubles and 30 home runs in a season. How about that? First left-handed batter. Billy Williams never did it. Hall of Famer, great left-handed batter. The greatest left-handed hitter in the history of the franchise. Only 3 other players, period, have ever done that in a Cub uniform. Hall of Famer Rogers Hornsby all the way back in 1929. Derek Lee in 2005. And Alfonso Soriano in 2007. 3-2 on Rizzo. Reds have made it easy for the Cubbies to get a pair here in the 4th inning. Very easy. Walk to the pitcher. And a fly ball in the right, and this will knock in 2 more. Cubs a moment ago had a runner at second with 2 outs and the pitcher up. Since then, walk, single, 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 and a 4-run inning.
Well, that swing right there is what makes Anthony Rizzo just so dangerous. I mean, it's one thing hitting home runs, but when you can take a good pitch, lefty on lefty, and hit it the other way like that, drive a couple in. With Mac Jenkins out there right now, I bet you that Wandy Peralta is wishing that he had that at bat with John Lester back.
And he continues for Zobrist. He is the 8th Cub to bat here in what has been so far a 4-run 4th inning. And there's a strike. It is incredible the turnaround in the season series between these 2 clubs. It was just a couple of years ago the Reds were on a long run of dominating Chicago. That's a good play by Rendon.
And Votto.
And Votto is right. 4 runs in the inning. Cubs lead 5-0. Miami University at Great American Ballpark during your next visit. It's located over on the third base concourse. That's right behind section 109. The Reds Connect Zone offers free charging stations, 27 screens of game coverage, tweets, Instagram photos, trending topics, and all that great stuff. So it is a 5-0 ball game after Rizzo drives in a pair. Cubs have scored all 5 of their runs on 2-out hits. And Lester delivers steer right one. Lester gunning for his 18th win in what would be 22 decisions. He has not struck out a batter tonight. He's allowed 2 hits. He's hit a batter. He's not walked a batter. On the ground off the bat of Holt to the shortstop Russell, 1 away. Looks at strike 1. Cabrera popped up to the second baseman his first time up. Reds had scoring chances, a big one in the 3rd inning, where the runners in the corners and only 1 out in the top of the order coming up. But Lester got Peraza on a pop up to the shortstop, and then retired Tony Rendell on 1 pitch for the final out. And the Reds had 2 on, 1 out in the 4th inning before Schebler grounded into a double play. Looks like that 4th inning might be the only inning for Wandy Peralta. De Los Santos is down there getting loose in the bullpen. Down there talking with Ted Power. The first strikeout of the game for Lester. Thursday night, get a first look at this weekend's local football action. We call it Tri-State Tailgate. Brand new show here on Fox Sports Ohio. Presented by Columbia Hyundai and Genesis. Jeff Pecoro, Tony Pike will preview all the big games in our area, from the pros to the collegiate ranks. Of course, the Bengals will have their first home game of the year.
Long awaited.
Yes.
They played in 2 tough places to start the season off, New York, and then of course last week in Pittsburgh.
And of course in their first 5 games you have those 2 teams they've already played. They've got the defending Super Bowl champion Broncos coming up. And then they will be the opposition in their 5th game of the year when Tom Brady returns to New England in Foxborough. Schedule makers not doing the Bengals any favors to start the year. But they'll be all right. We got a good team. Real good team. De Los Santos. It appears by the way he's throwing that he is coming into the game in the bottom of his 5th inning. Steve Selski, and now it's official, as Selski is batting for Peralta. Did he go around? No. 2-2 on Steve. So Wandy Peralta goes 1 inning, allows 3 hits, 4 runs, all earned. He walked 2 batters. De Los Santos on in the 5th will be the 3rd Reds pitcher of the game. Hard hit ball. And a base hit. Pinch hit single by Selski.
Little decoy action right before that. You may have seen David Ross reach over and pound the dirt right behind the right foot of Steve Selski, trying to convince Selski that on this particular pitch, John Lester's coming inside. Watch him pound that right there. I'm coming in right there. And then he moves sneakily to the outside corner, but Selski all over it.
Seems like every time you look at Anthony Rizzo, he's smiling about something, doesn't it? Remember, we were walking out of the park one night last year, and we were right behind him, and a bunch of Cub fans were hanging out. They had a lot of construction going on where you'd normally, as that one is shot into the gap and will roll all the way to the wall. And this will plate the Reds' first run of the game. Selski all the way from first, and Peraza run scoring triple to make it a 5-1 game. So Peraza had a chance to knock in a run his first time up, couldn't do it. He does so now.
Well, they jammed him badly the last time to the plate. This time he kind of tries to go right back in there again, but it doesn't get in there on him. And Peraza takes it very nicely into the seam between right fielder and center.
Now Rendis is his third time up, but he's not seen much from Lester tonight. And what I mean is that he's been up there hacking early and often. His last at bat, a 1-pitch at bat. Only got through 3 his first time up. So here's Renda. See if the Reds can jump back into this game. Long, long way to go. We're only in the 5th. Reds get a run, leave a runner at third, and they trail 5-1 after 4.5.
And Sharp go head-to-head on the day's hottest sports topics. Undisputed with Skip and Shannon, weekdays at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, only on FS1. I'm Jim Day. Reds didn't have a lot of options as far as the starting pitcher goes tonight. Josh Smith goes obvious, as you've seen. One of the reasons is Homer Bailey is still on the shelf But the Reds have not closed the door on Bailey returning this season. In fact, he's on the trip, and he threw a bullpen here today. He was scheduled to throw a bullpen tomorrow, but Homer's feeling so good that he wanted to move it up a day. And the Reds are stressing this has nothing to do with his surgically repaired elbow, that Tommy John surgery. He's been dealing with a biceps issue. And I talked to Homer after he threw his bullpen. He says he's had no issues with the biceps recently. His long tossing has gone well. The bullpen went very, very well today, but he would not commit to whether or not he will start a game this season. Brian Bryce, though, has said if he feels good in the next couple days, you could even see him make a start on this road trip. It is still a wait and see.
All right, Jimbo, thank you very much, and I know you'll continue to update us on that situation. We'll check in again tomorrow on the Homer Bailey front, and probably the rest of this road trip until maybe we get a chance to see him. Jim will be all over.
The Reds, though, you got to figure whether Bailey makes a start or not here at the end of the year. The Reds are in somewhat of a conundrum as to how to make sure that he's prepared for spring training next year, because that's really what counts. It's not what he does the rest of the year here. Do you want him to pitch at all? What kind of? Does he have a normal winter where he probably takes a little bit of time off and then he hits the weights and he gets in cardiovascular shape and he gets more strength and so on? And most of these guys who pitch a lot of innings during the season, they don't throw a lot in the wintertime. But I wonder if that program might change for Homer Bailey. So it'll be interesting to see what the Reds do to prepare him for, next spring, a good year.
Well, he broke his bat on the last swing, and now he rips one into right field.
Hayward has that little chicken wing move, but Joe Morgan, it's not as wild as the one that Morgan did. Morgan really flapped his back arm as he stood waiting for the pitch. But watch it right there. He just keeps it right in there. And the last thing a lot of hitters want to do is have a flying elbow. That tends to make your swing more of a scoop. And Hayward's trying to battle that with the way he keeps that back elbow in there.
Speaking of Joe Morgan, I was remiss yesterday in not wishing the Hall of Famer a happy birthday.
You're right.
Yesterday, September the 19th, 1943, the birth date of Joe Morgan. Not only a Hall of Fame player, he was a Hall of Fame broadcaster, but he is certainly a Hall of Fame guy. He's one of our all-time favorites. What a guy. We certainly hope and pray that he's feeling well and doing well. Just seeing him around as much this summer as De Los Santos hits Baez. Joe has always been one of those, bigger than life, although not huge in stature. For a guy who's as revered in so many baseball circles and in different circles, player, broadcaster, Hall of Fame work he's done in the communities, wherever it is that he goes, but he has always been one of those guys where you can give him a hard time all the time when you see him, and he loves it. He loves every minute of it.
Because he'll give it right back to you.
That's exactly right. Guy is just awesome guy.
Boy, he can size up a pitcher's move to first base better than anybody I've ever spoken to. I mean, one pitch home, one pitch to first, or one throw to first, and he's got you. And of course, if you were pitching against a team that had Joe Morgan on it, he'd tell everybody else in the whole ball club. And he knew that you knew that he knew.
That's a nice play by Peraza, and they can't turn it over. Looked like Peraza, after making a nice stab, took a long time getting the ball to Brandon Phillips.
Well, the ball was hit so hard it was probably deep in the webbing of his glove. I mean, This was a really nice pick because the ball was hit very hard by David Ross. Right there, that pick right there. And I think the ball just bobbled a little bit. And with Ross running, they still have a chance right there. In fact, if Votto was able to hold on to that ball, they get a double play.
All right, so the pitcher Lester will back. Runners on the corners. Chicago a 5-1 lead, batting in the bottom of the 5th inning. De Los Santos. First pitch fastball and there's strike. Lester just stood up there, never even remotely offering it a pitch. With a runner at second and 2 out, 1 inning ago, daring Peralta to throw 3 strikes before he threw 4 balls, and he didn't. Force out will end the inning. It led to a 4-run inning. We're going to check in with Jim Day when we come back.
Actually a grandpa, but it's Grandpa Rossi. David Ross, we talked about his swan song this year, and it's been a season-long love fest. And back in February, Bryant and Rizzo were at dinner with Ross, and they decided to start an Instagram page, Grandpa Rossi. And it has become quite the popular page. They're just documenting his last season. It's got 139,000 followers now. Pictures and, well, video. Check out this video from spring training, and they said that this was after a hard day of catching that Grandpa Rossi had to help himself, use the bat as a cane. And Rizzo and Bryant saying, come on, old man, you can make it. It's all in fun, but this guy is so loved here in Chicago, and this is only his 2nd season in a Cubs uniform.
You know, Jimmy, it speaks volumes about the kind of guy that Ross is. Now, look, having guys like Rizzo and Bryant do stuff like that, it certainly aids a cause, but they felt the same way in Boston about David Ross.
Well, they did. They had signed him to a 2-year deal in Ross to be a backup catcher, but not an ordinary backup catcher. He became the private catcher of John Lester there. In fact, he was lost for a part of the season to a concussion that was really worried. They were worried about when he came back.
Uh-oh is right. He'll be checking on his main man.
Well, that ball got back on John Lester, I mean, right now. And, of course, it was off the bat of Joey Votto. Right forearm.
David Ross knows Lester better than anybody out around that mound. And he's already turned around and walked back to home plate.
Well, he figures that at the very least that Lester's going to throw a couple of practice pitches.
Well, he brought him a new baseball out there. You saw that. I mean, Ross, he was like, I've seen this before. This guy's staying in the game.
So in a 2013 season, when he did come back off the disabled list from having 2 concussions, he played a huge role in the Red Sox winning the World Series, or the run to the World Series. Started 4 games in that World Series, had a game-winning double in Game 5. And he catches more than just John Lester. I mean, he was the catcher the night that Jake Arrieta tossed that no-hitter against the Reds this year in Cincinnati.
Well, this year, Ross has made 47 starts, tonight the 48. The team is 37-10 in his starts with an ERA of 2.45. Now, 17 of those 37 are Lester. 4 of the 10 losses are Lester. But you still do the math, it's 20-6 even without Lester.
He actually also got the pitch last year. In fact, he pitched not once but twice last year, recording 1, 2, 3 innings both times. And when he pitched in July of 2015 against the Phillies, he then came up and led off the next inning with a home run. So he's a pretty good hitting pitcher too.
And if I'm not mistaken, you were doing the Reds games at the time. I think he hit a home run when Mark Grace was on the mound pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I think you might be right.
On swinging is Duvall, and that's the second strikeout of the game by Lester. So after getting a hit on a line drive on the arm, strikes out the very next batter.
You know, when Ross was with the Cincinnati Reds for those couple of seasons, he was Bronson Arroyo's personal catcher. In fact, Arroyo almost demanded, you know, if you want me to pitch, you better have David Ross in the lineup that night. And that's when they had Jason LaRue, Javier Valentin as other catchers. All-around good guy, too.
.75 pitches on the night for Lester. Brandon Phillips 0 for 2 is lined to left and reached on an error, and now he has a base hit down the right field line. Going first to third is Votto. Here comes Brandon, and a throw slightly offline. He slides in safely with a 2-base hit.
Boy, is that a beautiful piece of hitting by Brandon Phillips. You talk about hitting a ball where it's pitched. That ball on the outer part of the plate, Lester elevated it a little bit, and Brandon takes it right down the right field line.
Well, before the batter Schebler settles in, I want to clarify something I said a moment ago. When David Ross hit that home run off Mark Grace, he was playing then for the Los Angeles Dodgers, September the 2nd of 2002, in a 19-1 Dodger win. All right, second and third. Now you got a real shot to get back in this thing. Schebler the batter. 0 for 2. Rounded out to the second baseman in the second inning. Hit the ball right on the nose, but unfortunately for him, with runners at first and second in the 4th inning, he hit a rocket one-hopper right at the shortstop to start an inning-ending double play. 1-0. A ball and a strike. Lester has not allowed more than 1 run in a game since the 11th of August. It's out of play. And in that game, he allowed 2. So over a month worth of starts, 1 run or no runs in each one of them. He has not lost a game, if you can believe this. He has not lost a game since the 3rd of July. And that was by far his worst start of his career. An inning and a third, 9 hits, 8 runs against the Mets.
Kind of interesting, really, that it was Joey Votto that batted that ball hard off of Lester's arm. You know, only ironic in as much as they were both taken in the same year of the draft. They were both taken in the same round. Votto was taken in the 2nd round, 2002. But he was the 44th pick. Lester was pick number 57 overall by the Red Sox.
It was almost as though Lester, like a basketball coach, was working the official after the prior pitch. He stared in there as if to say that was a strike. Came right back in there again.
And he definitely got the benefit of that one, too. And that's not normally one where you get a little bit of margin of error, because you see where the umpire is sitting right over that inside corner. Well, that's not to say the Fox Tracks is perfect on breaking balls on the corner.
Tyler Holt, a breaking ball taken for a strike.
I like to compare the Fox Tracks to a political poll. There's a little margin of error. We think.
Oh, and 1 on Tyler Holt. Didn't go around, a ball and a strike. Lester's 17 wins, tied for the National League lead, the most among National League left-handers. And already the 2nd most in his career. He has never been a 20-game winner. Won 19 with Boston in 2010. He has been a very, very good pitcher for a long, long time. And this is without a doubt the best season of his major league career. Earned run average 2.4, closing in on 200 innings. Striking out nearly a batter per inning while allowing 139 hits and 184 innings coming into this one tonight.
You know, in an era where most good pitchers are injured along the way somewhere, 9 straight years of 30 starts or more.
Reds miss another golden chance. Boy, they've had plenty of them here tonight. 5-1 Chicago. Reds fans catch all the action Sunday, October the 2nd. That'll be the final game of the regular season. The Reds will take on these Cubs, and you can be there for as low as $13 thanks to Delta Airlines. Fans in attendance receive a 2016 team photo. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or log on to Reds.com/tickets. Beautiful Wrigley Field. Sellout crowd. Perfect weather night. The only thing spoiling it, the Cubbies are on top 5-1 as they bat against De Los Santos. On for his second inning. Last of the 6th. He hit a batter, allowed a single, but got out of trouble in his only frame, the 5th. Josh Smith did a real nice job tonight. Emergency starter. You know, Chris, you look at the state of the Reds starting rotation. We're going to see Robert Stevenson here tomorrow night. The Reds have an off day. Now, Anthony DeSclafani missed the first couple of months of this season. He's only made, what, 20 starts? And they skipped his turn 2 times ago before pitching over the weekend. He is scheduled to open the series in Milwaukee on Friday night. And then you have Dan Straley going on Saturday in Milwaukee. Sunday, the Reds don't know who's pitching, which says to all of us the season might be over as a starter for Brandon Finnegan.
Yeah.
All right, they haven't announced that, but I mean, you don't have to connect the dots to figure that out. Or at least that's what might be going on. Still 3-2 on the leadoff man, Fowler. What I'm ultimately getting at here, boy, if you're the St. Louis Cardinals and you're trying to get into the playoffs, and we mentioned last night, basically, there's still a chance for some others, but basically there are 3 teams that are fighting it out for 2 playoff spots in the National League. There's ball 4. You have the Cardinals, the Mets, and the Giants. The Mets lead the Cardinals and the Giants, who are tied for the 2nd spot by 1 game. The series after Milwaukee, the Reds go to St. Louis. And I mean, if you're the Cardinals, you're sitting there saying, are you kidding me? We're going to see a rookie in Robert Stevenson. We have no idea who we're going to see on Tuesday. Will it be Josh Smith, Wandy Peralta, De Los Santos? Do they run Finnegan out there one more time? And then maybe if they keep DeSclafani on a regular turn, and that's not a certainty, you would assume it is. That would be his final start of the year on Wednesday night.
Well, the Cardinals will probably come back to you and say, you know, we've had an awfully tough schedule here in the month of September.
I get it.
I mean, they play the Cubs 6 times since September the 10th. They play the Giants in 4 games.
Yep.
You know, then you have the Rockies in between, but
yeah, but that's in Denver, so you know what that can do to a
true.
pitching staff.
Yeah, you're right about that.
That series, in fact, is underway tonight. Cardinals just scored 3 times. It's only in the 3rd inning, leading Colorado 3-1. The Mets are batting and losing in the bottom of the 8th inning against Atlanta. Braves 5, Mets 1. Miami already a 1-0 shutout over the Washington Nationals. The Giants on the road later in LA. Pulled foul. Cleveland got another win tonight, outdueling Kansas City 2-1. Cleveland zeroing in on a divisional championship. They have their 11th walk-off win tonight in Cleveland. 87-63. The 87 wins, second most in the American League to the Rangers' 89. And depending on the outcome of the Detroit Tigers, Cleveland went into play in the American League Central with a 7-game lead over Detroit.
That's Rizzo on deck. Bryant is an interesting guy to watch in the batter's box. He's 6 feet 5 inches tall, but watch how he crouches. I mean, he really bends at the knees, and he hits probably more like he's about 5'11", maybe even 5'10" by the time he crouches down like that. And a lot of the power that he generates with that swing starts in the legs. It's kind of a spring-like motion that is a perfect timing with the swing as it goes through the hitting zone. I'd have to go back and look at a little tape, but he reminds me a little bit of Dave Kingman, the way he stands in there. King Kong used to hit him a long way.
Oh, boy, did he. Ball in the air to right. One out. I'm having a hard time what number Dave Kingman used to wear on his jersey. 14, okay. I don't know why I was thinking 17. 17's been a mighty good number the last 2 go-rounds for the Chicago Cubs. That was the number of Mark Grace. During the decade of the 1990s, Mark Grace led Major League Baseball in hits. More hits than any player in the National League. Won multiple Gold Gloves over there. Truly one of the Cubs' all-time greats. But Bryant put on number 17 his first year in the big leagues, and there's no telling what kind of numbers he's going to put up. Scary potential for Bryant. Here's Rizzo. There goes a runner. Got a huge jump. No chance.
Santo with a big high leg kick. I mean, it may have taken Fowler a little bit to figure him out because he wondered if maybe he's going to mix in a slide step, and I don't believe he does.
Two and two.
De Los Santos, if you don't know where he came from, he was in the big leagues just for a cup of coffee last year with the Washington Nationals. Reds picked him up this July when the Nationals put him on the waiver wire. Originally signed by the Rangers when he was a young kid out of the Dominican Republic. He's still very young. He's only 23. Fastball, curveball mostly. The changeup is still a work in progress.
Rizzo another hit and another run batted in. The speedy Fowler will race in to make it a 6-1 ball game. Boy, Rizzo piling up the RBIs.
You know, he really tightens it up with 2 strikes on him. I mean, some guys that are sluggers, they continue to have a big swing right through the at-bat regardless of the count, but Rizzo really changes his approach. Last time he got a pitch on the outer part of the plate, he punched it into left field for a base hit. Drove in a couple. Here he drives in one with a shot up the middle.
Make a great point about Rizzo. The more you watch him through the years, I tell you, he is one sharp guy at that plate. But make no mistake about it, as patient as he is, and he has a very high on-base percentage, when it's money time to knock in runs, he's up there to drive them in.
Yeah, he's also a very good defender.
A couple of pretty good players right there.
You're not kidding.
Rizzo has gone up over 300 total bases on the season. Only 4 players in the league have more. Arenado, who's in a different galaxy with the rest of the league in everything. Bryant up over 300. Daniel Murphy of the Washington Nationals. And Freddie Freeman, the only 4 with more total bases. The only players with more runs batted in, Arenado, again in a different galaxy. He has 20 more than Daniel Murphy's 104, than Rizzo 103. And there goes Rizzo. And he's out. You know, look, the Cubs have clinched the division. They're going to nail down home field advantage throughout the National League playoffs. But Joe Maddon was quick to point out last night after the game. He said, look, it's time to get everybody locked and loaded again mentally. Giving a few guys a day off, days off. Rizzo and Bryant had the weekend off. And he said, look, you can't let that edge that we've played with all year long, you can't let it get away.
It's sometimes hard, though, to manufacture that edge, especially when you're playing a team that is out of the running.
Yeah.
And they're running pitchers out there that you've never seen before. And they're running a lineup with players' names who you don't recognize. And you think, well, you know, we're going to take care of this ball club. They've got a couple of guys we know, but everybody else is pretty much a September call-up. How do you get fired up for that? And that's the challenge that you have if you're Joe Maddon and the Cubs. Because the teams that they're going to face, perhaps in the playoffs, are teams that have played hard-nosed, must-win baseball right down to the very last game of the year, including the wild card play-in game. Baseball is such a game of momentum. I mean, the momentum that the Giants have lost now 3 in a row. Cardinals have won 3 in a row. Marlins have won 3 in a row. A lot can change in the next 2 weeks. Watch all the action Saturday, October 1st for as low as $13 when your Redlegs take on the Cubs. Thanks to Butterbee's American Grill. The first 25,000 fans receive a Team Cincinnati t-shirt. So tickets, of course, you call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/tickets.
All right, so the Reds come to bat here in the 7th. It is still John Lester on the mound. He's allowed a run on 6 base hits. The only Reds run came in the 5th inning, although they have threatened multiple times. In fact, 4 innings in a row. But have only managed to break through in the 5th. They had first and third, 1 out in the 3rd inning. Did not score. First and second, 1 out in the 4th. Did not score. Got the triple by Peraza to knock in Selski in the 5th. And then second and third, 1 out in the 6th inning. Could not score. And there's strike 3 to Cabrera. Reds have left 5 runners in scoring position. Coming up a little bit later on, as always, we'll have our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. 4th strikeout. All 4 have come in the last 3 innings for John Lester. De Los Santos goes 2 innings, allows 1 run. Hit a batter, walked a batter, and allowed 2 hits. And Ivan De Jesus Jr. pops it up short right field. Easy for Hayward. 2 down. $40,586 here tonight. Told you last night the Cubs eclipsing 3 million in attendance this year. They still have tomorrow night against the Reds, and then the weekend after an off day Thursday with their longtime rivals, the Cardinals, rolling in. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They'll finish a year. 7-game road trip. 4 in Pittsburgh, and then the final 3 at Great American Ballpark. Jumbo Diaz will come on and pitch in the bottom of the 7th inning. Two and 1 to count on Jose Peraza. To be the final inning of the night for Lester. Closing in on 100 pitches. He has a 5-run lead. I mean, they want to ride this left arm right into October, deep into October.
It's been a very business-like performance, very much like just about every other start he's made here in the month of September. He's allowed 1 run tonight. Coming into tonight, he had only allowed 1 run in the entire month of September, so 2 now in his 4 starts in September.
And this would be a 9th start in a row if he can get out of this inning without giving up a run. 9 starts in a row of allowing 1 or no runs. It's incredible. Over a month. And that's probably going to do it for Lester. 7 innings of 1-run baseball.
As we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, a new pitcher for the Reds on the mound. It'll be Jumbo Diaz taking over. Josh Smith started this game. Wandy Peralta, De Los Santos for a couple of innings, and now the big man, number 70, Jumbo, takes over.
Well, it's so nice to see Tom Dreesen. Many have seen him through the years. Las Vegas for a long, long time. He sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" tonight. He was a really close friend for a long time of Harry Carey and had a chance to be around him a lot. I mean, he's had an incredible career, traveling all across the country now doing shows, and well, it's been a long time. Had a chance to see him.
You see a lot of people when you come in. Now we come in as visitor announcers, 3 different trips in,
Right.
And of course, every time during the 7th inning stretch, they have a guest singer, and you never know who you're going to see.
No.
I mean, we had Sting in here earlier in the summer.
How about that?
That was pretty big.
That is pretty big. In fact, doesn't get much bigger than that.
Well, unless you bring in Jumbo, then it does get bigger.
Hey, who knows? Maybe Jumbo will sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" in this ballpark one day. Who knows?
I was telling Gary Wayhoff a little nugget about Jumbo that he probably didn't know. I don't know if you know either. You know, he is from La Romana, Dominican Republic, and the big grocery store in La Romana is named none other than Jumbo. Good man.
He is. He really an easy guy to root for. You know, you and I were talking about this before the game today, and it's not to leave out anybody. But I only grouped them together because they were walking through the hotel lobby yesterday afternoon together. Jumbo Diaz and Eugenio Suarez. I mean, you talk about two really pleasant guys. There's a pop up to the right side. And there are many, many others. Again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm shortchanging anybody, but those two, I mean, they'll go out of their way to say hello. And that is not always the case in the seemingly always changing relationship between so many in a Major League Baseball team's traveling party.
Well, I think in the long minor league career of Jumbo Diaz, I mean, he's gotten to the point where he really appreciates each day up here at the major leagues. I mean, he was sent down earlier this year to get his act together. He did. But it took him 10 or 11 years in the minor leagues till age 30 years old before he finally made the majors. And Eugenio Suarez a little bit on a different path. I mean, he's been a better player, made the major leagues as a young guy.
Very young.
You know what I've noticed about Suarez is that I see Joey Votto talking to him around the batting cage a lot. And maybe it's just because there used to be Votto and Bruce would hang out all the time and they would do all the talking kind of off by themselves. But Votto's disseminating a lot of information to these hitters around the cage. Talking, hitting, he and Shevler. But Suarez he's all ears when he's around Votto. That can only be a good thing. When he's sitting next to Tony Jaramillo, I guarantee he's talking about hitting.
We invite you to get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game on Fox Sports Ohio. Everything you'd like to know leading up to the first pitch. Reds Live presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Tomorrow we come your way at 7:30 for the Reds Live. Boy, you talk about night and day as far as big league experience. Robert Stevenson, 5 major league starts. John Lackey seemingly has been around forever. It's going to be interesting. You brought it up last night. There is no doubt Jake Arrieta, John Lester, and Kyle Hendricks would be the front 3 in the Cubs postseason starting rotation in no particular order. But, you know, you touched on it last night with Hamill. If they needed a 4th starter, and most of the time, if you start getting into a 6 and a 7 game series, you're going to need a 4th starter more times than not. It's going to be tough choosing between Lackey and Hamill. Hamill picking up his 15th win. Now, you don't base everything on that. But Lackey, there's just been something a little off. His overall, you know, the macro numbers when you zero in on Lackey are all very good. Low ERA, opponent's batting average against, all those kinds of things. But on a team that's 40 games over 500, he is 1 over. He's had some very odd sort of things go on in his starts, and I just don't know if mojo's on his side, at least so far. He does have incredible postseason experience, much more than Hamill. And I'm sure that Joe Madden is taking everything into account.
Well, he went on the disabled list in just a little bit past the halfway mark in the month of August.
Yep.
And he got activated, the first week in September, so maybe he's just not all there. The Cubs aren't saying very much about Jake Arrieta either, and he is struggling. He's struggled to throw strikes. He's giving up more home runs. And John Madden has said, well, right now we think it's just a mechanical thing, getting dialed in. Now, we've seen Jake Arrieta at his absolute best in Cincinnati when he pitched that no-hitter against the Reds. We've also seen him dominate on other games. I mean, he had the kind of second half last year that John Lester is having this year, maybe even more dominating.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was seemingly on the verge of throwing a no-hitter every time out.
It was the greatest second half of the season in the history of baseball by a pitcher.
But, I mean, he's fallen back quite a bit. So if Lackey is losing something, and Arrieta has yet to find his sync with his mechanics, I mean, then you've got to go with Lester and Kyle Hendricks, number 1 and 2, I would think. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, the Cubs are loaded, there's no doubt. They've had a terrific year before a short series. Nothing is guaranteed.
And as you pointed out earlier, and I harken back to the last time the Cubs had their best chance of getting to the World Series. Now, some might say last year they got to the LCS. You'd be right. But they didn't even compete. They were just completely dominated by the Mets. The last time was 2003 in that memorable league championship series against the Marlins. And we brought it up earlier. You said a minute ago, the Cubs, because they're going to have the best record, they're going to play the wild card in the opening round. And in 2003, remember now, it was the Marlins who were fighting to get in the playoffs back when there was only one wild card. And they had to go right down to the final weekend of the year to get in. They stunned the team with the best record in the National League. That was Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent and that whole group with the San Francisco Giants. The Giants, you may remember, the year before had gone to the World Series and lost in 7 games to the Angels. And the Marlins were on such a run that they just blew the doors off the Giants. That's when it was a best of 5. Just 3 games to 1. No contest. And then came the LCS. And the Cubs jumped all over them in that LCS. They were at 3 games to 1. Game 5 in Miami. Josh Beckett, one of the great pitching performances in postseason history. Complete game, wins game 5. And then you know the rest of the story with Pryor and Wood, games 6 and 7. Cubs losing here at Wrigley Field. But that Marlin team then just completely overwhelmed the Yankees in the World Series. Josh Beckett leading the way on the mound.
He was about 19 years old back then, wasn't he?
And so, you bring up a great point about whoever the Cubs are going to play in the first round. It is going to be a team that is truly battle-tested for longer than a month and a half of games where every game, it may not feel like a playoff game, but it will have had the importance of a playoff game. Where the Cubs have really not played any kind of game like that in 2 months. And even then, do you play a playoff-like game in July?
Yeah, you're right. I came to a couple of those games last year here. My son moved to Chicago, Dan, and were able to snag some tickets and came up here. And I'll tell you, when the Mets took control of those games, I didn't know that 40,000 plus people could be so quiet.
You're right. And that's why, in the playoffs, more times than not every time, but more times than not, the power pitching teams seem to dominate in a playoffs. And the Mets were clearly a power pitching team. That's why they're kind of a scary team. They won't have Matt Harvey. But, you know, what if DeGrom is well enough to get it all together here? Syndergaard.
Steven Matt's back, I think, in the rotation. He's going to make a start soon.
On swinging is Cogley. And Jumbo with a scoreless 7th. Ryan, nice seeing you guys. Hope everything's going well back on the home front. Anthony Rizzo has knocked in a couple of runs here tonight. 103 runs batted in. Cubs will have at least 2, maybe 3 players in their everyday lineup knocking 100 or more runs this season. Carl Edwards Jr., his 31st game. He's had a nice run of it. ERA of up under 3.5. And he takes over for Lester, who goes 7 innings, allows 6 hits and a run. Broken bat roller by Tony Renda on the second pitch thrown by Edwards. Boy, Renda doesn't waste any time. He is up there hacking early and often in the overwhelming majority of his trips to the plate. Votto takes on the inside corner. No balls and 2 strikes. Joey a base hit his last time up, 1 of 3 in the game. That's when he hit that line drive off Lester's non-throwing right arm. And foul tip into the mitt of Ross. 2 outs. Miller time moment, August the 31st of last year. Adam Duvall, his first hit as a Cincinnati Red, you may remember, was a home run. down the left field line. Justin Grimm. Turned out to be a game-winning home run coming with Tucker Barnhart aboard. That was right after the Reds brought him up. They had made the trade to get him in the Mike Leake deal from San Francisco. And I'm not sure anybody, when the Reds acquired him, envisioned that in 1/2 season later, this is his first full year in the major leagues, that Duvall would hit 30-35 home runs and knock in 90 to 100 runs. Now, they'd like to see him improve. He would like to improve on that batting average, right around 240, and on base percentage of around 290. But I mean, look, there's a lot to be excited about from Adam Duvall in the year he has had playing every day. Because as you remember, when Jay Bruce was still around and the Reds began spring training, it was a duel as to who would play. Most people felt it would be a platoon, and that's what it was to start the year with Duvall and Schebler. So really for the first month and a half, he wasn't playing every day. There's ball 4. Broken bat flare, that'll fall in a hit. So Brandon Phillips with a base hit. Hayward showing off that arm. He had no chance to throw out Duvall going first to third. But man, he does have an arm now. So Brandon picks up a second hit in the game. Reds have him on the corners trailing 6-1. I would imagine that Joe Madden is not far from getting somebody up in that bullpen. Schebler runs into one and all of a sudden it's a 2-run ball game.
The other part of it, Tom, when you're going through your bullpen late in the year like you are with Joe Madden, and you're trying to think ahead, and how is my playoff roster going to look? And a lot of the toughest decisions come down around who's going to be on that pitching staff. And I would say Carl Edwards right now is on the edge. I mean, you could probably, some rosters would have him on it, some others would not have him on it. So you want to see how this guy reacts, you know, in game. Not necessarily a high pressure situation now, but certainly he's pitching perhaps for his postseason life. They did pick up Mike Montgomery, a left-hander, in a recent trade with the Seattle Mariners. They expect him perhaps to be on the roster. Pedro Strop not available, so they may need Carl Edwards after all.
I just wonder at the end of the day, when you're going for the gusto and the way he has ridden this starting rotation so far this year, I wonder how many relievers we're going to see them go into when it's game on the line time. Because if you got to go to the post with anybody in that bullpen outside of Rondon and certainly Aroldis Chapman, you generally would tend to stick with the Arrietas, the Lesters, and the Hendricks of the world. If you can.
Mm-hmm.
2-2 the count on Shepard. Runners at first and third. And he looks at strike three for his second straight at bat. Look at our Honda game summary. John Lester, surprise, surprise, started the scoring with a 2-out RBI double to right center, scoring David Ross all the way from first base. And then after a couple of walks, 3 straight hits, producing 4 runs in the Chicago fourth inning to open up a 5-0 lead. Peraza got the Reds on the board with a run-scoring triple to score Selski in the 5th. But the Cubs tack on another run in the 6th inning, and they bat here in the 8th, leading 6-1.
And a new pitcher in for the Reds is right-hander Matt McGill. Just in his second ball game. He has been in the big leagues before. That was with the Los Angeles Dodgers back in 2013. The team that originally signed McGill. 31st round draft pick 2008. He was traded to the Reds in the Chris Heisey deal back in 2014. And an odd really set of transactions for McGill last year. He was with the Reds in the minor leagues, and then the Reds released him on June the 7th, and then re-signed him on June the 16th of last year. And here he is in the big leagues in 2016, so that's a success story from a personal standpoint for Matt McGill.
were talking about the number 17 a little while ago, and you go back through the history of the Cubs and some of the other players that have worn this number. It's pretty interesting. Talked about Mark Grace for a long time, and Bryant. See, bangs one into left field. Remember our old buddy Joey Amalfitano?
Sure.
He wore number 17. I think you've heard of a fellow named Don Zimmer.
Really?
He wore number 17 in the history of the Cubs.
Are you a number guy?
No, I'm not at all. I really don't pay any attention to him, but I had a long-time outstanding baseball man, Tom Barbary, sending me some of this information about players that have worn that number. Bump Wills, Dave LaRoche, you remember him.
We all remember Dave LaRoche.
A guy they thought was going to be a great player here, Felix P.A. Remember him?
You know, don't ever let Tom Barbary go to sleep during one of our broadcasts, because this is just compelling stuff.
It really is. Dave Chappelle, remember that name?
He's got he's a comic comedian, isn't he?
Yeah. That's who the Reds traded, if you remember. He was a big prospect for the Reds.
Oh, Chappelle. I thought you said Chappelle.
I remember the Reds thought that guy was going to be a really good player. This should be 2. Barehanded by Peraza. Look at Rizzo busting it up the line. What's another thing you like about Rizzo's game? I mean, all the time. That guy is going hard. I want to thank our producer of Reds Baseball, Mr. Josh Hall, and our director, Brian Hunterman, associate producers, Matt Sigafus and Lauren White. Well, they've been at it all year long. They've done an incredible job. Should be the final out of the inning. That's good work right there by McGill. 2 on, nobody out, gets out of it unscathed. Reds will bat in the ninth, down by 5. Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Well, the countdown to face off to the Columbus Blue Jackets home opener underway. Puck drops on the new season Thursday, October 13th. Nationwide Arena, your home of Blue Jacks hockey, is Fox Sports Ohio. Countdown to face off presented by Columbus's very own Wendy's. Jim Day, a big hockey guy, always stops by the Blue Jackets to check them out. What a great venue that is, Nationwide Arena.
It's a fun place to watch a hockey game.
Fun place to
Really
watch.
is.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Great concert venue. It's a big league arena. Of course, they have two big league arenas really at the end of the day there in Columbus. The Schottenstein Center, where they play Ohio State University basketball. That is an incredible facility as well. And of course, right here on Fox Sports Ohio, Chris, it won't be long before the defending NBA champions crank it up. LeBron and company. You been in that building, Quicken Loans Arena? That is a great place too, man. That's a cool building. All righty. Trevor Cahill on the mound and is trying to get the final 3 outs. Reds are down by 5. Tyler Holt to lead it off, and it's outside 3-2.
So, Tommy, this is your penultimate game on TV for the 2016 season. And we may have to do something special tomorrow night.
Well, I'm certainly grateful and thankful to be here. I'll tell you that. There's ball 4 to Tyler Holt after it's a slightly little bumpy season, but all turned out, thank God, just fine.
Well, it did, and we were praying for you while you were away.
I appreciate it.
I'll tell you, you've come back. Your voice is as strong as it's ever been.
Thank God for that.
You're a little cranky, but other than that,
very cranky. Very cranky.
You've been just your normal self.
It's a good thing.
We really missed you when you were gone. I'm glad you're back.
I missed you guys, and I'm thankful to be back. And hopefully we'll be next year. Take a look at that. I don't know if I've ever seen the moon look quite like that. Have you?
No.
Wow. It almost looks like one of the further away you get, it looks like, what was that, Pac-Man? And I don't mean Adam Jones. Not up close. It's got to be further to have a look. Up close.
Oh, we're losing the shadow on the bottom now.
Yeah. What a pickup. Oh, goodness. And they still turned it over. Beautifully done. Starting with Russell.
Well, Russell fields this ball as he gets himself in position to stop turn and throw a perfect peg to the covering second baseman. And even with a double pump by Zobrist, enough on the ball to get Ramon Cabrera into that twin killer.
Well, these are the kind of things you'll see a manager do to get his team ready for the playoffs. You know, they're going to bring in Travis Wood to face Joey Votto. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. All right, 2 outs. Reds batting in the top of the 9th inning. Travis Wood, a left-hander, was brought in to face a left-handed batter, but the Reds are not going to give him the satisfaction of being able to do that. They're going to send up Eugenio Suarez to bat. And I'd say that Votto is due up. I beg your pardon. We're down the bottom part of the batting order. Pinch hitter. And Peraza waiting on deck. 1 and 1 on Suarez. 20 home runs, 64 runs batted in. And this ought to do it. Back-to-back wins for the Cubs over the Reds in this 3-game series. John Lester becomes the first left-hander for the Chicago Cubs to win 18 or more games in 53 years. The last left-hander to win 18 or more was Dick Ellsworth, who was a 22-game winner in 1963. Wow. Cubs are 96th win. They're 41 games over 500. We'll be back with more in a moment.